morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna go out and do a vlog via the train today. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. Well, gang, today I wanted to tell you about one of my favorite actors. This man was only 3 feet 9 inches tall, but had one of the biggest personalities in all of Hollywood. And he actually changed the world, even beyond making motion pictures, radio, kids' TV shows. He changed the entire world, and I'm gonna tell you how. Yep, I'm talking about Billy Barty. Billy Barty, I think I discovered in Weird Al Yankovic's UHF. He played the cameraman for the TV station, but his career went all the way back to the 30s. Billy Barty was actually a dwarf who broke into TV by doing a gag where he walked on his hands to show how he got the loose change out of his pockets. He just happened to do it in front of Jules White, the man who would later go on to direct the Three Stooges comedies. Billy would actually make his debut pretty much starring right next to Mickey Rooney in the Mickey Maguire series. He would actually play a younger brother to Mickey Rooney, and part of the reason they said that they cast him for that not only was because of his athleticism and his abundance of charm, but he was also older, and so the scenes that they would need him for, he was actually allowed to be on set longer than a child that would be portraying that real age would be allowed to do. Now, Billy was really lucky because he said that his family from the time he was born never ever treated him any different. He said, I always knew if I wanted, you know, something to drink or something out of the kitchen or something off a shelf that I was to go over, move a chair over and get it myself. They always treated me like an equal, and because of that, he never saw himself any differently, and he said he was never called, you know, any names growing up, so he never knew any different. Or maybe not until the entertainment business, because back then, much kind of the way it is now, a lot of the parts for little people, midgets, dwarfs in those days, he said it was very popular to be called a midget because he said it was more proportional. Like people that were dwarfs didn't necessarily want to be called a dwarf. So now, he said the little people then were always sight gags, or they were put in costumes for characters and were relegated to never really being given any kind of screen credit. But that would actually all change for Billy when he would be finally billed alongside Elvis Presley and Harem Scarum. Well, maybe not billed next to Elvis, but he was certainly billed on the project, and it was an Elvis feature. Now, Billy was actually born in Pennsylvania, and his father owned a car dealership, but when they realized that Billy was a dwarf, they thought maybe the weather would be a good change for him, and so his father sold the dealership, came out here to Hollywood, and got a job kind of working as maintenance or kind of building projects for Universal in the hopes that he could get his one of his kids or both of his kids cast in pictures, which is exactly how Jules White discovered Billy on the Universal Studios lot. So when the work started to dry up for Billy in the 30s, the family formed a vaudeville act, and they went out on the road for like 7 years, and Billy was tutored along the way. And when vaudeville basically was falling off because movies were becoming bigger and bigger, then Billy started getting cast again. The family settled back in Hollywood, and Billy would go to high school with other kids for the first time, and then eventually go to where we're going now. Uh-oh. Better reload the card. Alright, let's try it again. So the reason I wanted to go where we're going today is because this is where I feel like Billy's life changed the most, that influenced the big part of his life that I wanted to tell you about even beyond his performing career. We're actually going to LA City College, where he went to college, and what a great story he had there. Now, the reason we're not going to his house today is because I'm going to save that for another vlog. I have a different style and a different subject vlog I want to do over at his house. Wrong train. Oh, and sorry you guys didn't get to see Ja today. Ja actually, I got a text last night, and they asked if Ja could come over and spend the night with Pollyanna. And my girlfriend came over, and she didn't really want him to, but as soon as I said Pollyanna's name and Ja started jumping around and freaking out and everything, she totally understood. So we let Ja go over and spend the night over there, and I'll get him back today. By the way, I love this shirt. Oh, here we go. All right, we're here. Well, here we are, LA City College. The place where, in many, many ways, I feel Billy's life changed dramatically, because originally when he enrolled here to go to college, his plan was actually to become a sports writer. That was really what he wanted to do with his life. He didn't see much of a career for himself in entertainment, even though he was a consummate entertainer, one of the most beloved people anyone could ever run into. So he came here, and the reason I say that this is where it all changed is because while Billy was here, not only did he write for the school paper, but he also starred as a track and field star, football star, basketball star, and gymnastics star. Can you believe it? He said that when he played football here, he was so small that he could actually run between people's legs and made it hard for people to capture him. And so his coach's advice was always, save yourself. If you think you're in trouble, run out of bounds or go down. Just don't risk it. So while Billy went here, like I said, he was starring in all these athletics, he was writing for the paper, and he actually started getting work again. Now, this is kind of what I thought was interesting, was that he was a real big man on campus here. Everybody that went to school with him said never not had a date. He could call anybody at any time, and his Friday and Saturday night was booked. He was beloved by everyone. People always wanted him. He was the life of the party. But it was here where he realized that what he'd always grown up and been taught, where he could do anything anybody else could, that he wasn't any different than anyone else, this is where it all came to pass, because he had lettered at 4 different sports here. And so later on in his life, after he would get out of here, he actually did not go into sports writing. He went back into entertainment. He would organize the very first convention in Reno, Nevada, for the Midgets of America, where he would pull together 21 different people from different states to come together to form a coalition where little people could realize that there were more of them out there, that they weren't alone, and that they were just as good as anyone else. Now, Hollywood was actually full of little people at that time, because Wizard of Oz had been filmed, and they had pulled little people from all over the country to come out and be in the movie. And then once the movie was over, a lot of them decided to stay and try and get jobs out here, try and remain in the business. Billy, however, actually couldn't be in the Wizard of Oz because he was too young for the scheduled work days that they were going to have. So he actually got Jerry Marin and a few people that were in the Wizard of Oz to be part of that 21. They would go out and successfully basically have a powwow for the weekend, all getting together. And shortly thereafter, I mean literally right after, Billy would form the Little People of America Association. Little by little, every year it would grow, and now it's a nationwide organization that looks out for the rights, and Billy was one of the pioneers in making sure that there was handicap access and disabilities for people of all shapes, sizes, disabilities. Now, the thing that I always loved about Billy Barty was that even though his height did make him funnier in many respects, his personality alone was so charming and so funny that he actually got cast in a lot of parts that didn't call for a little person. He just brought something more to that part, and they cast him in it. You know, some of my favorites, like I said, were UHF. I loved him in Day of the Locust. I thought that was such a great part, and it's kind of surprising he did it, because actually at the age of 39, at one of his Little People of America conventions, he fell in love at first sight with a woman who was a Mormon. He ended up courting her, and at the age of 39 he married her and converted from being a Catholic to being a Mormon. And so when he was considering doing that movie, doing Day of the Locust, which actually he would go on to say was his favorite part that he ever did, or the thing that he thought was the most remarkable thing, he almost didn't do it because of the subject matter and what he would have to say. I also loved him in this kind of actually 2 lesser known movies, one being called Night Patrol. If you can find that, you would die. guy. He plays a police chief who is a consummate liar, and every time somebody asks him a question, he accuses them of accusing him of being a liar. And one of the other things that he was really great in that's kind of lesser known is a Roddy Piper movie about wrestling called Body Slam, where he plays a wrestling manager. So you can definitely get a kick out of those. But one of the great things about Billy Barty was that he also was so lovable that here in Los Angeles, he actually had a kids television show for many years. Billy actually went on to have many foundations where he raised money for little people. He really was going and going and going until he physically couldn't go anymore. He had numerous leg surgeries. In fact, one of his knees started to buckle in on itself. He had numerous hip surgeries, and he really just kept going. He was one of the first little people ever to receive a triple bypass. The guy lived an immense life in a short amount of time. Now, one of the interesting things about him is that he did have kids, and his daughter, his wife was a little person, so Billy and his wife, when they had a daughter, she ended up being a little person as well, so their entire house was had been form-fitted for their size. But then they had a young son thereafter, and he actually became the black sheep of the family because he was I guess he was not a little person, so he had to adapt to, they said at 3 years old he could reach everything, he could reach all the counters and everything that they could. Oh, check that out. Mike Stoller and Jerry Leiber. Leiber and Stoller, they were a very, very, very famous songwriting duo. Rockin' Pneumonia and the Boogie Woogie Flu. Now, though Billy did play football for LACC, he actually didn't play here on the campus because in those days they actually played over at Gilmore Field, and I've vlogged that area before. Now it's the Fairfax Farmers Market, but there used to be originally back in the early days of Hollywood an oil field there, and then when that was gone, they put in a football field and a raceway, and that's where Billy would play football. Billy actually went down as one of the most beloved actors in all of Hollywood, maybe the most famous little person to ever act, and he self-proclaimed himself the president of the I've Never Seen the Top of a Refrigerator Club. Now, one of my favorite things about Billy also is that Billy, being the man he was, knowing how great that little people could be at athletics, he actually formed something, and you can watch a documentary about it on Netflix called the Hollywood Shorties. And it first started out as a little people softball team that played in the area and would do little scrimmages and fundraisers, and then eventually became a basketball team similar to the Harlem Globetrotters. Billy now has a star on the Walk of Fame. He's forever remembered, and he eventually passed off the reins of the Little People of America and the Hollywood Shorties to other people, and they continued to live on for quite a while. Right here's the theater, and let's take a walk over here and take a look at this little, looks like a Japanese garden of some sort. So just imagine in the mid-40s, Billy Barty would have been roaming these grounds as the big man on campus. Oh yeah, that's nice. Take a look at that. You know what's interesting about Billy is that, even nowadays, you don't see a whole lot of little people in commercials representing a brand or a company or anything, unless it's for like a sight gag or in a costume or something, almost similar to the way it was when he got his start. But he actually was the spokesman for many products and coffee products and various things. He really changed the game. Like I said, he wasn't somebody that they only casted because of his height. He actually had a really great personality, and because of him, other little people actors started getting bigger parts and more recognition over time and throughout the years. And I'm sure somebody will get mad if I don't mention that he was also part of the historic Spike Jones City Slickers for many years. It's kind of a little touring comedy group that Spike Jones had at the time, and of course Billy was the little man there and could do all kinds of acrobatic stunts and was extremely physical, in really great shape. Hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about Billy Barty if you didn't know him before. Now that's one person here in Hollywood I truly wish I could have gotten the chance to meet. He actually died in 2000, the year that I moved out here, and his family said he was so beloved that when they had his funeral, they kind of toyed with the idea of keeping it private, but then they realized he was the consummate showman. Anytime there was a camera out there, he would jump in front of it and do some sort of bit. So they said they knew he would want the attention, so they made it a public event. Now, one of the cool things that I wanted to mention as we leave the college, this wasn't always LA City College. You might be surprised to learn that before this was LA City College, this was actually the campus of UCLA until UCLA became too big and they moved over to Westwood. How about that, huh? So now you've seen LA City College, you know a little bit about Billy Barty, so when we go do another vlog, I won't have to go through all this again, and you've seen the former UCLA. And actually, I'm feeling a little bit better today. I'm feeling better than I have in the last few days. Been taking medication and getting some rest, and hopefully this cold that I have is starting to pass. Oh, check this out. Too bad it's not from the 40s. We could have seen some stuff of Billy, but this is a time capsule. They said that LACC took this over in 1929, opened its doors on September 9th of 1929. So in the spring of 1931, the first graduating class buried a time capsule and put all these things in there, and one of them happens to be one of the yearbooks with some of the football players and stuff in there. And I know online, I'll see if I can find it, there were in some of these old yearbooks from the 40s when Billy was here, he's in these books, so they were showing him playing. So unfortunately, this is not the proper year, but it's pretty cool that they have all this time capsule stuff here on display. This was actually the front of the time capsule, that big metal piece. Alright, let's head back to Hollywood and get something to eat. I figured we should come see Billy Starr before we call it a day on this. Oh, you know what? I think they're doing NBA All-Star festivities up here since the All-Star game's in town. Came here a few years ago and met Darryl Dawkins, the man who could shatter backboards. My buddy Joey Diaz, the comedian, had told me some really insane stories about knowing Darryl Dawkins back in the 70s when he was on the Nets. So when I met Darryl Dawkins, I mentioned it to him, and he completely confirmed it. I can't share the stories with you guys, but he completely confirmed them. Doesn't necessarily say if there's any star going to be here, but usually when they have these kind of events, they have like either a rookie or somebody that's kind of well known out here to sign autographs for a short time. We're not going to hang out though. We actually want to go across the street and see Billy Barty Starr. Also, beyond all the other movies I already told you about, I'd definitely recommend checking out the movie Under the Rainbow and W.C. Fields and Me. That's another great one. Yep, I just saw him selling some bootleg All-Star Game shirts. What the heck? Yeah, I definitely say that's how you could describe that. And there he is. You got one, Billy. Awesome. What a great guy, right? And since I mentioned Day of the Locust, the movie actually ends right in front of here. One of the most disturbing ending scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Right here. And check that out, there's Harold Lloyd. Unfortunately, Billy doesn't have his handprints and footprints here, but Harold Lloyd, remember what I told you guys about him missing a finger?
Inside, so quickly.
See that?
See me underneath the red umbrella by the front doors, and
he used to wear like a glove to cover it up.
About the tour, which is just about the end. William, Sidney Poitier, Shirley Temple.
I was looking for the Chewbacca that called Carpetbagger fat, but I don't see him out here. Little word of caution, stay away from these street performers. They're pretty crazy. It often makes the news out here that they get into fights with people and with each other out here, so it's just better to stay away. No matter how tempting it may be. Look, it's Ripley's Believe It or Not. There's a dinosaur busting out of our roof. Believe it or not. With Valentine's wings. I should go vlog that soon. I haven't been there in 15 years. Robert Wadlow! I know, even though I'm sick, I still... there's my school. I've always felt that it's good to get like some sun and some fresh air, so I've been trying to make myself get a little bit every day to do the vlog, you know? Look how many tour companies Scott Michaels has to contend with. See what I mean? There's 5 of them right here. Oh, holy cow, check that out. Look how many subscribers I have. 9,999. We're so close. Holy cow, check that out. I mentioned that there's a vending machine that sells jackets. This one you can get shoes. I think John Raitt deserved a little better than that, don't you? Really? You just paint over his face for no reason? Unreal. Well, dang it, we missed the rollover, but we got it. Cool. That actually does kind of sound cool. Check that out. Reminds me of Revenge of the Nerds. Spend 5 minutes on the moon, 0 gravity feeling. I wonder if you have to wear a Darth Vader mask like Lewis did. Now that's a great cardboard cutout to have if you're gonna have Roy Orbison doing Only the Lonely era. Well, my new chair got delivered. I put it all together and it looks great. It's looking a little bright on the camera lens, but it's actually like the color of like my denim jeans. Well, Jeffrey, it was a big day. We hit 10,000 subscribers, and I wanted to send a big shout out thank you to Daniel Welch, Michael O'Neill, and Anita Allen for becoming my newest Patreons. And I hope you guys all developed a whole new respect for Billy Barty. Have a great night, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.